Hi everyone, this is my run on storming the Citadel Lufenia stage on this DF Final Fantasy Opera Omnia Global version of the game. And in this run I'll be covering a double Amidatelion cheesy strategy which incorporates heavy turn deletion and turn delay on the bosses. So much so that for the most part of the fight they will not be getting any actions at all, and thereby negating most of their attacks completely. So before going to the actual battle, I'll be covering a little bit about the background behind this strategy, the key mechanics that you need to prepare for still, as well as the party setup that I used. I will also be including a timestamp in the video description that you can use to skip ahead to the section that you are interested in. So coming to this fight, it's a single wave of a pair of Argent Officiants, and since this strategy incorporates heavy turn deletion, for the most part you can just forget about all the attacks that they can do, because you will probably never see most of them at all. However, there are still a few things that you need to prepare for in this strategy, chief of which is the Lufenia Orb. The Lufenia Orb is pretty tight this time because it appears with a count of only 7. And the only way to increase the count is to use some sort of burst heals. So HP regen per turn doesn't count, and you actually need to have abilities or skills that provide some sort of healing to increase the orb count. The orb will first appear when the Argent Officiants hit 79% and will last until they hit 49%, which means from the 79% to 49% phase, you need to juggle in some sort of healing moves into your attacks to keep the orb relatively healthy. The orbs can only cap out at a rate of 8, so even if you spam healing moves, the highest the count will go is 8, and will, as you can imagine, will quickly diminish again, so you do need to take careful note. However, in this strategy, once the bosses hit 49%, the orb will actually disappear, and the orb is only meant to reappear when they use the globated crush attack when they are levitating thereafter. But since I'm repeatedly deleting their turns, the orb actually will never appear again until the end of the fight. So once they hit 49%, you can bypass the orb mechanics completely after that. The second thing to think about here is that when they hit 49%, they will cleanse all debuffs on themselves, and they will also levitate. So although the orb disappears at 49%, when they levitate, they grant themselves a whole range of generic buffs, including int brave up, max brave up, attack up, and defense up to themselves. And something that's not written here is that when they are levitating, they become quite resistant to most forms of damage except for range damage, which means that while they are levitating, most brave hits that you do are severely diminished in damage, and therefore you are meant to actually allow them to take the turn, use globated crush, and ground themselves again, thereby allowing you to return to full damage again. But if you allow that to happen, the orb will reappear. So the way to get around that is to incorporate heavy party battery into the kit, and therefore by batterying yourself every turn, you bypass the heavy brave defense that they get, and you can still do some nice amounts of HP damage even though they are levitating. So that brings me to the party composition that I used. So first of all, Amidatelion is central to the strategy, and I use one Amidatelion in my party and one more as a friend support. The Amidatelion in my party is fully MLB. She doesn't have her high armor, but she has 3 spheres equipped, which is Refined, Ares, Levitate, and Kefka spheres. and her artifact passives are such, so 1 max brave 330 and mysterious you up, 1 attack 108 and mysterious you up, and attack 108 max brave 330 artifact. Second to Amidatelion, I incorporate Root into my party. Root here functions, it has actually 2 functions in the game, so in this fight. Firstly, he has healing built into almost all the skills he has, which is meant to help you keep the orb counter healthy from the 79% to 49%. So as long as you juggle Root's healing in consistently, Root alone is enough to keep the orb healthy until you hit the 49%. Besides that, once the bosses levitate at 49% onwards, Root also helps a lot because he incorporates heavy party battery into his kit. So Root's attacks will consistently cap out everyone's brave, which translates to everyone unloading and dealing heavy amounts of damage during their turn, even if their brave attacks are resisted. Lastly, the third party member I think that has some flexibility, but I incorporate lightning into the kit. Lightning is useful because from the first 50% of the fight, her army of 1+ can still work to delay the bosses. Although once they are levitating from 49%, they become immune to delay except those from breaks. Nevertheless, she helps to delay the bosses from the first phase of the fight, thereby allowing me to save turn division skills with Amidatelion. The other good thing about Lightning is that she also has HP damage up passive built into her LD, which is quite helpful at the last 49%. By getting batteried with Root, and therefore after unloading HP damage, she can still deal very healthy amounts of damage with that HP damage up passive. So my Root is equipped with 3 attack 108 and C50 passives for the fight. Although on hindsight, I think it's actually better to just equip 3 attack and max brave 330 artifacts for the fight, because maximum HP isn't important at all in this strategy. With Lightning, she has 3 attack 108 and max brave 330 artifacts, and in terms of artifact passives, Lightning has her own Ardean and Liz full spheres equipped, whereas Root has Refined, Raijin, Garnet and Star spheres equipped. Now I want to take a moment quickly to talk about the call abilities set, because they are very important in this fight. So first of all, Root has Cloud call ability equipped, and that's mainly for the launch ability, and it helps to provide additional damage during the last 49% of the fight, because Cloud can cause a launch, and thereafter Root can immediately battery the entire party and do another launch on the off target, leading to massive amounts of damage. Lightning has Reno call equipped, and the main function for this is twofold. Firstly, when they levitate, they will cleanse all debuffs, so that's when I bring in Reno to debuff them with Lightning in Peril, so that Lightning can continue on her damage. Besides that, Reno himself provides 2 frame debuffs, and Amidatelion provides 4 frame debuffs. So when they levitate, just by using Reno and bringing in the Amidatelion support, you actually fill up the boss's buff bars with 6 frame debuffs, thereby pushing up all the buffs. Having said this though, with Cloud Call and Reno Call equipped, the 79% to 49% phase is quite tight, because Root is the only form of healing. So alternatively, if you want to have some breathing room, you can give Lightning burst healer as well, such as Firion or Rem, and that will allow you to bring in either Firion or Rem call during the 79 to 49% phase, heal yourself and increase the orb counter as well, thereby giving you a few additional turns. So whether you bring Reno or you bring a burst healer as a core ability really depends on your appetite for risk. Personally, I went for Reno, but and it is possible just with root alone, but it can be a bit tight. So that's it for the introduction. Let's head on into the battle, and I'll be covering some of the key decisions I made along the way. See you there. I also forgot to mention that I set Ifrit as my summon because the 25% attack up really helps a lot, especially when they are levitating. Okay, so starting off at phase 1, which is from 100 to 79% of the fight. Phase 1 is the easiest because they are all grounded, so you still do full damage, and they haven't yet buffed their stats, so all your attacks still hit for quite heavy damage. And they are also not immune to delay. So during phase 1, the key is really only to keep their HP as even as possible and to delay one with lightning and turn delete the other with Amidatelion. Other than that, it is very important to try to get both of them to hit 79% at almost the same time. The reason for this is when one agent hits 79% before the other, the orb will appear on the first agent. And if you don't keep the orb counts relatively even, it's very difficult to increase the orb counter with root, because root is the only form of party healing in this party composition. Okay, so entering phase 2 of the fight, so Argent Officiant A has hit 79% and the orb has appeared, and so does Argent Officiant B, so very nicely I managed to bring them both to the threshold at the same time. During phase 2, which is 79 to 49% of the fight, the goal is to try to burst them down very quickly to 49% while using root to keep the orb counter alive. Meanwhile, I'm still continuing to delay and turn delete with lightning and Amidatelion. Now the enemy turns are about to come up here, but Amidatelyon's EX is ready. I actually decided to just use her EX because it also was enough to fill up my summon bar. So here, because the enemy's turn are about to come up, I decided to pop summon on this turn. It might seem a bit early, but during the last 49% of the fight, you don't really need a summon phase anyway. So it's better to pop it here when you need the help for the summon to pause the orb counter. So during the summon, orb counter is paused and you can actually increase the orb counter each time root heals. So therefore take the opportunity to cap out the count on both orbs during summon. Okay, so summon has ended. Because I delayed and deleted turns during summon, so I've pushed them back quite a bit, and the orb count is kept out at 8. So at this point, I just want to quickly bring them down to 49% before the orb ticks down to 0. During this time also, they should be very close to being launchable. As you see here, Argent Official B is launchable. So ideally, you want to cause a launch with either Amidatelion's LD or Root's attacks, because both the LD or Root's attacks battery the entire party, leading to massive launch damage. And here you can see the orb count got very low. It's now at 1 count, but Root got another turn, and I can increase the orb counter again. So it was just nice for me because I can hit 49% just when the orb count is getting quite low. So as I said earlier, it's really up to your appetite for risk. If you want a bit of more leeway or breathing room for the orb, you can incorporate some call healers such as Ram or Firion. Okay, entering phase 3. So phase 3 starts when one of the Argent Officials hits 49%. When that happens, both Argent Officials will levitate, as you see here. The start of phase 3 can be a bit dangerous because they will battery themselves to max bravery when they levitate, and if one Argent Official still has a lot of HP above 50%, you might find it very difficult to bring it down to 49% and make the orb disappear. For this reason, it is highly recommended if you are using this strategy to get both Argent Officials as close to 49% so that you can quickly bring the other down to the 50% threshold, as you can see. Now the way to deal with the 99,000 Brave is to bring in the friend Amidatelion and use LD. As you can see here, the LD has a 100% gravity effect, so it brings down the Brave to 0. Very nicely also, bringing in the friend Amidatelion when both are at 49% threshold will help to push off the buffs because Amidatelion brings on 4 debuffs the moment she enters the battlefield. And I follow this up immediately by using Reno Call. So the combination of bringing in the friend Amidatelion and using Reno Call immediately debuffs 6 debuffs and removes all the buffs that they have granted themselves. Now during phase 3, all attacks except for ranged attacks are heavily resisted in terms of brave damage, and unfortunately my party comp doesn't have any ranged attacks. So at this point it gets a bit more difficult to damage them, and the key here in phase 3 is to rely on attacks to battery the entire party. So Root plays a very important role here. This is also a good time to use the Cloud Call while the friend Amidatelion is in play, because you can potentially use Amidatelyon's LD to cause a launch as well. Don't do the same thing I did here. I totally forgot about Amidatelion and I used Root to cause the launch. It still does some nice damage because Root still batteries the party, but Root's battery is comparably weaker than Amidatelion at this stage because he's doing less damage to the bosses. So it is better to actually follow up Cloud's launch with Amidatelyon's LD to cause another launch. So at this point, I'm using the support Amidatelion to delete as many turns as I can. Do note also that when they are levitating, they are immune to non-break delays. So at this point, Lightning's army of 1 can only break them and move them back by 1 turn, but cannot delay them. So in phase 3, it actually doesn't make a difference whether Lightning uses the plus or non-plus version of her EX, because the delay portion has been nullified. Okay, so I'll just be fast forwarding to nearer to the end of the fight because every round here is essentially a repeat. I'm just batterying and dumping Brave onto the bosses. Okay, so we are at the last 10% of the boss's life. I tried hard to kill them off before they get their next turn to try to get a 0 boss turn complete, but unfortunately you can see on the turn bar that their turn is coming quite close, and at this point I don't think I could kill them off before they get their next turn. Okay, so I've used most of Lightning's AA, and I came very close to killing them off before they get their next turn, but I think at this point it's going to be really tough. So here I couldn't kill them off, and the Argent Official A managed to let off a globated crush, and before boss B gets a turn, I managed to kill him off with Amidatelion. Now when one dies, the remaining will battery himself to full battery, full bravery, and will buff himself and levitate again. So for this reason, you want to try to kill them off at very close to each other. The good thing is that when the remaining levitates, it will push its turn back, so giving you a few turns to kill it off. And because it only has 4% life, I managed to deplete the last 4% life before it gets its next turn. And that's it. Hope this video has been helpful. As always, if you enjoyed the content, do leave a like, comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you in the next Lufenia fight. Bye bye.